Okay, hello YouTube. I know there have been a lot of questions about my Sub2000 and the magazines. So I wanted to do a little video on 3D printing, but also to go over some of the magazines that I've been using on my Sub2000 KelTec. You can, from my previous video, this was my 3D printed unit, but this is now my donor magazine, which I made a new catch for it. Now, originally, there were questions on what my Sub2000 KelTec was, and I purchased that as an S&W 9mm model because that's what was available. People weren't raising the prices on them and going crazy on it. I got it for a great deal. And when I got it out of the box, this magazine did not feed well with the unit at all. But when I modified my magazine and flipped the catch in order to run it, it ran flawlessly. So there was definitely an issue, and there's a tolerance issue between magazines and catch placement. And I've seen that a lot on certain, let's just say certain models of guns and rifles. So I went to KelTec and asked them for a SIG mag catch to replace the mag catch from the S&W, and KelTec was great. They sent it to me no charge, and I put in a SIG mag catch for a P226 model. Now that P226 is an exact position for the Walter P99 and for my Canik. So that worked out great. Now the placement is exactly where I want it. So I had to modify the original 10-rounder. And so by getting that exact position, the unit now runs flawlessly with the original mag that came with it, just because of the position of where the catch is in relationship to the catch and where the feed ramp is on the rifle. So then I went through and I modified all my R&W units, and I modified my donor unit to now run with my special printed out 3D extension. This holds 35 rounds. I've run, I don't know, 500 rounds through this thing. This thing now runs flawlessly. It's my guarantee to feed, guarantee to work magazine. I love this magazine. Never going to change it. My R&W ones now, when they're brand new, they run perfectly. After a couple of rounds, the spring just weakens. Now, as a design engineer, spring force is calculated by F equals Kx. K is the spring constant, X is the distance and deflection of the spring. So that's how you get your force. The problem is, when you design or call out with the manufacturer for a spring, you put in those variables. The problem is that manufacturers start out with a smaller length magazine. Let's say they start out with a 16 round or an 18 round. Then, you know, the designers are asked, okay, let's extend it out for a 30 round capacity. Well, they're using the same spring, the same constant. Well, that doesn't work out. And what you start getting into is your safety factor, the amount of extra force that you placed in that spring constant to overcome different weights of bullets. And that's what I was noticing on these. If I ran with my brass rounds, then I started noticing that my 25 to 30 rounds were having issues. But if I ran with a combination of, let's say, 20 rounds of brass and 10 rounds of aluminum, they ran flawlessly. So weight was becoming an issue to the unit. I'd have to mix between the two or go all aluminum. Well, if you go to an indoor range, you can't use aluminum. If you go to an outdoor area, which we were doing, it was cost effective to go with the aluminum rounds. So, also my Pro Mag, which I knew wasn't going to work correctly, and it didn't work correctly at all. It even worked worse than the National magazine, which is a shame, the Pro Mag. But I went ahead and modified it, the catch, and used it, and it would just fail and fail. So I wanted a solution where it'd be a cost-effective way to modify these, and doubling up the spring is the best way, right? But trying to find that exact spring or buying 2 magazines to equal 1 didn't make it sense either. So I wanted a way to help this and help my RWB magazines also. So I found on Midway S&W 9mm magazine springs. Now these are usually, let's say for 9 rounds, but those are, by doubling up on that 9 round area, that section, I was able now to run this magazine, which would not run at all. 0 capability, 100% failure. I was able to run 28 rounds continuously now with this unit. That's amazing improvement. So for $3.50 now, I've got a working magazine. So I'm going to go through tonight and put these all in my RWB ones also. I went to the range today and emptied them out so that I could do that. So these are all going to be basically not doubled up, but let's say 1.5 increase in spring power. And that should fix the issue with running brass or aluminum or whatever, and then I'll have reliable magazines. And back to 3D printing. Now you can see the advantage of the 3D printer. I've got a great magazine, runs 35 rounds. I'm thinking about, depending on how these RWBs are affected by the spring, I might extend them also. But I wanted to go and improve my KelTec. Let's see here. And one of the things that everyone wanted to improve was the sight, the front sight. It came with this, I don't know, clear, red, pink plastic. You could not really get a good view off of this unit. So I went ahead and printed my own orange sight. So I first started out with an exact copy of theirs. And it worked. I could see it a lot better. It was bright orange, and it didn't have this diffuse pink whatever. You know, it's supposed to be fiber optic. It didn't work well. But the orange worked a lot better. And then I started extending the length, changing the profile, adding a ramp to it. And in the end, these 0.65 length units is what I've got in here with a 10-degree ramp on them. And that allows me to catch any light at any angle. At 10 degrees, gives me a bright spot on it. I've been able to improve my shooting with it greatly. I can see it. I can now place it. It works great. I love it now. So that's an improvement in 3D printing. The next thing I had to do was, I know everyone else has done it somewhere, trying to, the butt pad. Trying to put the butt pad on these units and still have the capability of closing it like you saw me open it up. That's the big problem. Well, with 3D printing, and if I can get this off, because once it's on, it's great, right? You don't want it to come out. Okay. Let me take it out here. I 3D printed a butt pad extension. I wanted to make an inside profile to match it, and then I made an outside unit in order to allow the unit to still fold. And it now protects the sight. It adds about 1/4 inch. You can see it right there. 1/4 inch to the length of the unit. It protects my sight. It gives me a place to put this butt pad on it. It extends my connection point to it, and it feels great now. Now I can shoot this all day. Great. Gives me a great position, and I love it. So that's a big benefit because of 3D printing. Allows me to put a butt pad in it. I just had to put a hole in the top in order to allow my sight to fold in. It works great. Other 3D printing things I've done is my friend asked me for an extension for his Ruger. I've been printing these out for him. Now this gives him a full grip on his gun instead of that little pinky that came with it. So these are just some of the advantages of going with 3D printing. And it allows you to enhance your weapons, make them fit custom to you, and you get instant results, prototyping and so forth. It works really well.